What if the God you pray to isn't the real God? Today, we're diving into a really powerful and honestly pretty challenging way of looking at faith. It's a journey that kind of forces you to question the very foundation of what you believe is true. And it all kicks off with one single powerful question.
Let's really sit with that for a second. Is the God you worship the absolute, unchanging God of Scripture? Or, is it a version you've kind of built over time, shaped by your culture, your own tastes, your personal ideas of what's right and what's wrong? This is the core conflict we're digging into today.
The source we're exploring today argues that modern faith is in a bit of a crisis. The idea is that things have gotten more and more chaotic, to the point where countless people are calling on the name of God, but they might just be calling on a version of God they've made up in their own minds without even knowing it. And that brings us to the very first part of this journey. So, first things first, let's get a handle on the actual problem. The source calls it a crisis of faith. It's this idea of a believer who is totally spiritually lost, caught in a maze, really, but they don't even realize it. And it's a trap that's entirely of their own making, a crisis that starts right inside our own heads. And here it is, the core of the issue. The argument is that the biggest deception isn't something from the outside world, it's internal. It's our own subjective thoughts, our personal logic, our feelings about good and bad. Those are the very tools we use to build a false god, an idol that fits us perfectly, but isn't the true God. Okay, so this is a really provocative quote, I know, but the source isn't using it as a literal accusation. It's a powerful metaphor. The devil here symbolizes being governed purely by your own mind, your own resources. A mind where, the argument goes, absolute truth just can't exist. So when you speak and act only from your own limited relative understanding, you're disconnected from the real source of truth. This whole internal conflict sets up a fundamental clash. It paints a picture of two opposing realities, two different worlds, and, at the end of the day, two very different ideas of God. So let's break down these two worlds, two gods. So on one side, you've got the world's God. This is the God that's built from our subjective, shifting thoughts. It changes with our moods, with the culture. It's a God defined by our very human relative ideas of good and bad. But then, on the other side, there's the true God. This God isn't based on our feelings. It's based on revealed, absolute knowledge, an objective truth that never changes. And the entire spiritual journey, according to this view, is about getting from the left side of this chart to the right. Now, to describe this world of human ideas, the source uses a key Korean term, bijinli. It literally translates to untruth. But it's so much more than just a lie. Bijinli represents the entire reality we live in that's based on our own relative, subjective human thoughts. It's the world governed by our personal sense of good and evil. And to find truth, you have to wage war against this world inside you. Okay, so if we're living in this world of untruth, this bijinli, how in the world do we break free? Well, this brings us to the real action, the internal battle for truth. This is the fight to conquer the world of bijinli inside ourselves and replace it with something absolute, something divine. And the hero of this story is called the Ijin Jan, or the Overcomer. Now, this isn't about conquering countries or winning some worldly battle. No. The Overcomer is someone who has won the war inside their own mind, the war between their own subjective thoughts, bijinli, and the revealed objective truth, or jinli. And this is held up as the ultimate goal for every believer. So how do you become an overcomer? The source lays out this pretty clear three-step path. First, you have to recognize it. You have to have that light bulb moment where you see that your own mind is the primary source of deception. Second, you have to receive. You have to actively take in a new kind of knowledge, a revealed, unchanging truth. And third, you replace. This is the work. You have to consciously, continuously replace your old subjective worldview with this new objective truth until it becomes your reality. Okay, so you're probably wondering, where does this revealed knowledge actually come from? Well, according to the source, it comes straight from the Bible, but, and this is a huge but, only when you learn to read it in a completely new way. Not as a history book or a rule book, but as a symbolic map to a deeper spiritual reality. This is such a critical point. The whole idea is that if you read the Bible literally, you just stay stuck in that world of bajungli, the world of earthly stuff. To really get its message, you have to see its words as symbols that are pointing to a much deeper spiritual truth. In this view, it's not really about our world at all. And this famous quote? It's used to drive that very idea home. The Bible, in this framework, is a guide to that other kingdom, a kingdom of divine knowledge, not earthly events, which means the words and the images it uses, they have to be decoded to be truly understood. Let's look at a few examples of how this decoding works. Take the word light. Literally, yeah, it's illumination, but symbolically it represents God's unchanging revealed knowledge. Or the sun and the moon. Literally, they're celestial bodies. But in this framework, they represent temporary guides, teachers, pastors, laws, or institutions that you rely on during your journey, but you have to eventually move beyond them. And finally, the head. It's not just your physical head. It symbolizes the very source of your guiding knowledge. The battle, then, is to replace the head of your own thinking with the head that is Christ's knowledge. So, all of this leads us to the final destination of this entire journey. After winning that internal battle, after learning to decode the language of truth, the believer goes through one last, profound transformation. It's a process of becoming the light. The source points to this really powerful image from the book of Revelation, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet. So, how do we decode that? Well, the sun, a temporary guide, is no longer something she looks at, it's something she wears. The moon, another guide, is now under her feet. She's completely surpassed the need for external teachers. She has totally internalized the knowledge they once gave her.
And here's the ultimate takeaway, the real mindbender. The end goal isn't just to be a good student of the light, it's to become the light itself. It's a state where you are so filled with divine knowledge that you are no longer a follower of the truth, but an embodiment of it. Your old self, the one built on Bajinlis, is just gone. It's been completely replaced by a new self built on Jinli.
And this is where it all culminates, bringing everything full circle. You start as a person lost in the darkness of your own thoughts. You seek the light of divine knowledge, and you end by becoming a source of that very light for the world. And so that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We often think of faith and spiritual warfare in these huge external terms. But what if this framework is right? What if the most important, most decisive battle you will ever fight is the one between the world you've created inside your own mind and the truth that lies beyond it?